One thing is clear, and that is that the motive of the pharmaceutical industry is to make a profit, Dr. Brown told NewsPulse Finance. And one would hope that in having that profit noted that there would be due consideration to what is ethical and what is moral. He added that pharmaceutical companies put pressure on doctors to prescribe opioids for reasons that aren't indicated, and because of that, patients get hurt. At the same time, according to Brown, the FDA hasn't been doing enough to oversee big pharma, and I don't think that they have for a long time. The pharma industry was aware that the pain management reform movement existed and put enormous money behind the people pushing for it, Herzberg told NewsPulse Finance. What you had was an FDA that was told to get out of the way of the industry. Between 21 to 29% of patients who are prescribed opioids for chronic pain misuse them, and between 8 to 12% develop an opioid use disorder, according to U.S. government data. Brown has served as the chair of the FDA Advisory Committee on Anesthetic and Analgesic Drug Products since July 2016. During that time, he said, he's had many interactions with the principals at the FDA. I have told them repeatedly that there were issues that were problematic in their regulation of opioids, and that there was a requirement for substantial change, Brown said. What I got from that is they're not interested at this point in what I had to say. The FDA declined to respond to Brown's comments. However, in a statement to NewsPulse Finance, the FDA said that it has acknowledged it is among those that should have collectively acted sooner to slow the growth of this tragic epidemic or limit its scope, but continues to work aggressively to address this crisis. From clinical testing and drug review to post-market enforcement and surveillance, the FDA remains the nation's key consumer watchdog for the pharmaceutical industry. A recent lawsuit highlights the role of the pharmaceutical industry in the opioid crisis. The state of Massachusetts is suing Purdue Pharma, stating that the company created the epidemic and profited from it through a web of illegal deceit. The lawsuit alleges that the company deceived Massachusetts doctors and patients so that more people would use its drugs, that it misled these people to use higher and more dangerous doses, and that it deceived them so they would stay on these drugs for longer periods of time. All the while, Purdue peddled falsehoods to keep patients away from safer alternatives, Massachusetts argued. Even when Purdue knew people in Massachusetts were addicted and dying, Purdue treated doctors and their patients as targets to sell more drugs. At the top of Purdue, a small group of executives led the deception and pocketed millions of dollars. Brown said that doctors have been encouraged to be very liberal about their prescribing, and for a long time, the pharmaceutical industry was very helpful and having time to educate doctors to liberalize their use. That's where we've gotten ourselves into trouble. People are continuing to drop dead on the streets, he said, and it's ludicrous for us not to do everything that we possibly can to make certain that we're dealing with opioids in the safest way possible. Adriana is an associate editor for NewsPulse Finance. Follow her on Twitter at Adrian Ambles. Follow NewsPulse Finance on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Flipboard, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Reddit.